In The Power of the Powerless, Václav Havel, the Czech dissident playwright who defied totalitarianism and later became president, described a system where lies are not occasional mistakes, but the foundation of power itself. A system that doesn't just tolerate falsehood, but requires it, reproduces it, lives within it. A system where everything must be falsified. Havel saw this in late communism, a world where language breaks away from reality, where truth is no longer discovered, but performed. And today, that diagnosis feels uncomfortably familiar, because for Donald Trump, lying is no longer a flaw, it is a method of governance. In his first term alone, over 30,000 false or misleading claims, 20 a day, 40 a day by the end. This isn't spin, this isn't exaggeration, it is industrial, systematic, relentless. Fact checkers had to invent new language just to describe it. Bottomless Pinocchio, claims repeated so often they could no longer be mistaken for error. He was the only politician to qualify, and that was just the first term. What we're witnessing now is not a departure, it's an escalation. The scale has expanded, the stakes have deepened, the consequences are now global, because the lies are no longer confined to rallies or press briefings, they're embedded in war, and language is the first casualty. To get around Congress and the public, Trump insists this is not a war, it's an operation, a limited mission, an excursion. But reality says otherwise. Thousands of troops deployed, carrier groups repositioned, air assets mobilized, special forces inserted. What was meant to last hours has stretched into days, into weeks, and no end in sight. And then the contradictions. Iran's nuclear program was completely obliterated, and yet months later, this same program is suddenly urgent again, an imminent threat that must be dealt with immediately. Destroyed and intact, finished and unfinished, gone and still very, very, very dangerous. Then came the cascade. We destroyed their naval capabilities as tensions in the Gulf intensified and US troops are placed on the defensive. We destroyed their missile capabilities as waves of missiles continue to fall on Tel Aviv, visible, measurable, undeniable. Then the threat. Iran's power stations to be obliterated within 48 hours. Markets tremble, prices spike, panic spreads, and then, to steady the fallout, the pivot. Suddenly there are negotiations, deep, constructive, productive. He claims advanced talks with Iran's leadership, only for those claims to be publicly denied by the parliament speaker, by his deputy, by the foreign minister. Perhaps he was negotiating with ghost Iranians, joked. Then the latest turn, a pause, 10 days. He says Iran asked for it. They wanted 7, but he so generously gave them 10. A gesture of diplomacy, a sign that talks are working. Except Iran says no request, no talks, no shared reality. Language softens, the machinery of war doesn't. Build-ups continue. The illusion of negotiation becomes cover for escalation. And while the war rages on and prepares to rage further, Trump and Hegseth take turns declaring victory again and again, sometimes multiple times in the same speech. Because in this Orwellian system, victory is not achieved, it is declared. Language is not just bent, it is inverted. Escalation becomes de-escalation, war becomes peace, defeat becomes victory, fiction becomes fact, and truth becomes whatever is said loudest. Which is why fake news is not just a slogan, it's a strategy, not to persuade, but to disorient, to blur the line between fact and fiction so completely that the audience no longer trusts either. And when that happens, truth itself collapses. At times, the performance borders on parody. At a recent rally, Trump claimed Iran wanted him as supreme leader. Of course, he graciously declined. I don't want it, no thank you. Absurdity delivered from the highest office on earth and applauded. But that's the point. When lies become systematic, absurdity becomes normal. This is not statecraft. This is the marketplace elevated to empire. Deals without limits, leverage without principle, greed without restraint. Everything is negotiable, everything is transactional, even truth. The result is not strength, it is spectacle. A superpower speaking in absolutes, acting in contradictions, expecting the world to accept both. But the world no longer does. Allies hesitate, rivals calculate, even long-standing partners step back. Because power doesn't collapse when it's defeated, it collapses when it's no longer believed, as Anthony Eden discovered during the Suez Crisis. That shift is now underway. America is no longer taken seriously. It's watched, measured, and quietly dismissed, not as a stable power, but as something volatile, a spectacle, a performance, a farce. And at its center, a clown, not the kind that makes you laugh, the kind that makes you pause and realize, oh dear, he's holding the controls. A dangerous armed clown, a clown at the helm of a superpower.